Jonathan Schanzer is Senior Vice President of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. And welcome back to the show, Mr. Schanzer. Appreciate it. So Mike Pompeo and John Bolton both in the Middle East this week. How well did they actually reassure the allies?
Look, I think they both accomplished several things while out in the region. I think Pompeo's speech in particular reinforced the U.S. message that it is going to take a tough line on Iran. I think that Pompeo trying to encourage the Arab world to work with the Israelis to counter the Iranians was something that needed to be said in the region. That said, the fact that we're seeing some of this movement by U.S. forces in Syria, that we're looking at the beginning of the withdrawal, I certainly think that our allies in the region are wondering whether these are mixed messages and whether Pompeo and Bolton both actually speak for the president, who seems content on leaving Syria.
Well, and in particular, you had President Erdogan of Turkey refuse to meet with Bolton in Turkey on the swing through, and then said, we reject Bolton's argument, which is that please work with our Kurdish allies here, and we're not leaving until you do. And he said, no way. And now he's threatening to invade again.
Well, look, this, I think, underscores the very problematic outreach that we've done with the Turks. The Turks, as you probably know, have been supportive of Sunni jihadist groups fighting in Syria, including al-Qaeda, and potentially providing support to ISIS. They've been working with the Iranians. They've been working with Hamas. And this idea that somehow we could work with them and leave Syria to them was highly problematic to begin with. The fact that Bolton is putting some caveats in place, I think, is important, but will certainly, I think, put a strain on the relationship moving forward.
Well, it looks to me like they're still moving the timeline to get out of there. Our U.S. troops is 60 to 90 days. I mean, all the adversaries have to do is just wait us out, right? I mean, if that's already underway, that's all they have to do.
That's exactly what they're doing. So you've got the Russians, you've got the Assad regime, you've got Hezbollah, you've got Iran, you've got Shiite militias. They're all watching and salivating. I think, by the way, other adversaries like North Korea, they're probably very heartened by all this. So we're looking at, I think, a decision to vacate the region, and then a vacuum that will open up, and it will be filled by the likes of Erdogan of Turkey or the Iranians, and that is what our allies in the region are nervous about, despite what they're hearing from Pompeo and Bolton.
Well, and Secretary of State Pompeo said, look, we're not going to stop until every Iranian footprint is out of Syria. And I think my answer to that, my response to that is, well, how? How are you going to make sure that General Soleimani or the Iranians leave? Because there's no way we can really force their hand.
That's right. And, I think what you'll see from this administration is the fact that, they're still imposing tough sanctions. Well, that's great, but it's certainly not going to force Hezbollah and the IRGC and other Iranian irregular forces or Iranians themselves out of Syria. And so that is the question that I think all of our allies are asking as Pompeo tours the region is, great, we're glad that you have this will to do this. But if you're not putting boots on the ground, you're not willing to at least serve as a deterrent against the Iranians, how are we going to accomplish this? And don't tell us that it's just us working with the Israelis. Of course, the Israelis have the ability to continue to strike Iran. They've been doing so, but it cannot be on their shoulders alone. Look, by the way, I would say that none of these people are saying the U.S. needs to do it for them. Right. But certainly I think they want support from the United States as they battle this foe.
What about the success or failure? How well is the administration doing in putting together an anti-Iranian coalition in the Middle East? Is it really gaining adherence, or is it not?
Look, they have buy-in from from Abu Dhabi. They have buy-in from Riyadh, certainly from places like Cairo and Amman, from Manama and Bahrain. You have these governments that are certainly anti-Iran. The question is, what are they doing about it? Are they actually helping with the sanctions? Are they looking to buttress whatever forces are fighting against the Iranians? I would argue that it is still a very weak coalition, and that ultimately it's only the Israelis that are striking at Iranian assets, primarily in Syria right now. So the Israelis look like the strong horse, with a number of others wondering whether they should be getting involved. The only caveat I'll say there is you've got the Saudis battling the Iranians in Yemen, but of course we've just pulled our support from them. It looks as if that effort is likely to fall apart, so the Iranians will likely emerge as the victor in Yemen.
Yeah, it sounds like more mixed messages, at least to me, notwithstanding the good efforts by Secretary of State Pompeo. Jonathan Schanzer, thank you for coming.